Hello, this is Gloomy Sunday, and once again, I will be sharing spooky stories that will send shivers down your thorny spine. Without further ado, let's begin tonight's creepy, spooky, and sometimes outlandish array of tales. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. In the small, sleepy town of Putatan in Muntinlupa City in the Philippines, where whispers of the past seemed to mingle with the autumn leaves, 13-year-old Rosalinda discovered an antique doll tucked away in the dusty attic of her grandmother's house. With porcelain skin and a frayed dress resembling the fashions of a bygone era, the doll was unsettling yet captivating. As a child with a penchant for the peculiar, Rosalinda eagerly claimed the doll as her own. It wasn't long before she noticed that the doll was unlike any other. When the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows filled her room, the doll's glassy eyes seemed to flicker with life. Intrigued, Rosalinda set the doll before her, inviting it into her world. That night, she dreamt vividly of moments yet to come, glistening flashes of reality that beckoned to her from the other side of the veil. Her initial excitement, however, was short-lived. The visions quickly turned dark. She began to see her beloved pit bull, Choo-Choo, lying motionless in the street, surrounded by the flickering blue lights of an ambulance. The next day, she heard the unmistakable sound of a car crash echoing from her window. Her heart pounded as she rushed outside only to find Choo-Choo, lifeless, a grim confirmation of her dreadful foresight. Rosalinda tried to shake the images from her head, but the doll remained, quiet yet insistent. She pushed it into the far corner of her room, but it always found its way back to her, perched on her nightstand, its gaze unwavering, as if daring her to look. As weeks passed, Rosalinda's visions grew worse, the patterns more harrowing. She saw her best friend, Mercedes, falling from a high tree branch, and the next day, she raced to the park, pleading with her to be careful. But the warning went unheeded. Mercedes's laughter echoed moments before tragedy struck. A desperate fall, a broken wrist, and shattered bones left both their hearts in tatters. The visions continued torturing her. Each night the doll would reveal another heart-wrenching fate, and each day she would fight against the impending doom, but nothing seemed to change the outcome. Her loved ones were caught in the crosshairs of her dark premonitions. Her grandfather, slipping on the icy porch and fracturing his hip. Her mother, receiving a call about a tragic accident involving a childhood friend. Despair gripped Rosalinda as her family dwindled, leaving her alone in a world she no longer recognized. The doll, now an eternal companion, fixated on her with an expression that was both knowing and cruel. It seemed to thrive on her anguish, its glassy eyes glimmering with delight at each new vision of ruin. One stormy night, consumed by grief, Rosalinda confronted the doll.
"Why are you doing this to me?"
she cried, clutching it tightly.
"I didn't ask for these visions. I just want to be normal again."
But in reply, the doll offered no comfort. It only showed her a future far worse than she could have imagined. She found herself alone in a darkened room, surrounded by shadows of those lost, their faces twisted with terror as they emitted mournful cries for help. The final image was her own lifeless body, pale and cold, with the doll grinning sinisterly beside her. In a fit of fear, she dashed through the halls of her grandmother's home and flung the doll into the depths of the attic. She slammed the door, sealing it away, hoping to banish the curse. But the next morning, as she sat in silence, a dreadful noise echoed from the attic, scraping, scratching, a whisper of forlorn laughter. Rosalinda's heart raced as she ventured closer. With each step, dread clawed at her insides. She opened the door to the attic just enough to peek inside, and her heart sank. There, sitting prominently in the middle of the attic floor, was the doll, gazing at her, welcoming her with an eerie familiarity, as if the darkness had repaid its debt. Chills enveloped her. It was not finished. In that moment, Rosalinda understood that the doll had woven itself into the very fabric of her fate, a harbinger of despair that would never truly let her go. The visions had begun again, only this time they felt more vivid, more urgent. They showed her something she hadn't anticipated. Her future turned bleak, with each loved one's demise leading to her own imminent end. As the winds howled around Putertan and the night deepened, Rosalinda clutched the doll, tears streaming down her face. She felt powerless against the tide of the future, and realized she was bound to it, as the echoes of her loved ones faded into echoes. The chilling laughter of the doll would accompany her until the very end. Wow, that was an intense story. Are you also scared of dolls like I am? Let's move on to the next story. In a small African village nestled between the lush hills and the meandering rivers, there lived a woman named Tandy. Known for her culinary prowess, Tandy was preparing for the annual harvest festival, a time when villagers showcased their talent in cooking, crafts, and culture. Each year, the prize for the best dish drew competitors from far and wide, but Tandy yearned for victory like never before. As the festival approached, she sought inspiration from traditional recipes, hoping to delight the judges with her famous spiced honey cake. However, her preparations soon led her to the old woman who lived on the outskirts of the village, a mysterious figure known for her peculiar ingredients and whispered tales of dark magic. The villagers called her Mama Ziri, and she was both revered and feared for her knowledge of ancient recipes. Desperate to stand out among the competition, Tandy approached Mama Ziri and implored her for a secret recipe. The old woman's eyes glinted with something sinister as she rummaged through her tattered collection of scrolls. At last, she handed Tandy a piece of parchment, crumbling and faded, with illegible words scrawled across it.
"This will make you the talk of the festival, my dear,"
Mama Zui cackled.
"but be warned that the recipe demands a rare ingredient."
Intrigued but slightly unnerved, Tandy shook off the warning and returned home, determined to create the most magnificent cake imaginable. As she studied the recipe, her heart raced with excitement and dread. Hours turned into days, and Tandy worked tirelessly, gathering ingredients for the cake, spices that danced with the earthy aroma of the land and luscious sweeteners. Yet, the recipe's demands twisted around her, urging her to procure a more macabre ingredient, human parts. Cold dread slithered up her spine, but the intoxicating vision of the prize beckoned her onward. Each night, the hunger for victory eclipsed her better judgment, spiraling into obsession. Soon, she began visiting the village at odd hours, lurking in shadows and listening intently to the fears whispered among the people. Tandy devised a dark plan, her morals slipping away like sand through an hourglass. The festival night came, as the air filled with the sounds of laughter and celebration. Tandy unveiled her masterpiece, a gleaming, monstrous cake sculpted to resemble the very essence of her community. Rhythmically, she sliced into it, offering tantalizing morsels to the villagers who were none the wiser. Each taste left the villagers craving more, laughter spilling from their lips as they indulged in her creation. However, as the night progressed, an eerie silence fell over the village. One by one, the celebrants began to fall, their bodies twitching as dread leaked into their veins. Tandy's smile twisted into a grotesque expression when she saw the horror she had unleashed. The very human parts she had baked into the cake were now binding her to darkness. At that moment, she realized breaking the sacred balance between life and death came with a dire consequence. The villagers lay motionless, consumed by the cake of despair, and a shadow unfurled from within Tandy. She felt power surging through her, a dark, insatiable hunger leading her to revel in the chaos. The cake had transformed her into a monster born of her greed and Memaziri's wickedness. In the days that followed, Tandy roamed the village, her once gentle eyes now glimmering with malice. The moon shone a ghastly light, illuminating her as she prowled through the remnants of what was once her home. Gone were the joyous voices of the villagers. She had become the architect of their demise. Word of an attacking monster spread through the neighboring villages, tales of a once beloved woman turned into a ghoul by her insatiable ambition. Many feared to come close, but curiosity eventually drew a brave few to seek the truth. What they found was a maelstrom of horror, a village frozen in time and a monstrous figure haunting the shadows. Alone in her darkness, Tandy discovered that the very thing she longed for, that fleeting taste of victory, had claimed everything: her soul, her community, and her humanity. As she wandered through the desolate streets of the ghost village, echoes of laughter lingered like shadows in the wind, a cruel reminder of the fate that befell those who tasted her ambition. In time, the village faded into the jungle, swallowed by the relentless foliage, and the stories of the monster moved from whispered legends to forgotten tales. Yet sometimes, when the wind howled through the trees, villagers from afar would hear an echo of laughter, a chilling sound of humanity lost, reminding them that some desires should remain unfulfilled. I hope you enjoyed our spooky and ghoulish stories. Join us next time for more. Take care and boo-bye.